Good evening and welcome to the Orange County School Board's regularly scheduled meeting this Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. Thank you all so much for joining us here this evening. As a reminder, face masks are optional indoors, and that includes the board chambers and the lobby. Also want to remind the board, the public and the board, that the board members will not be engaging in outside electronic or digital communication during the meeting so that we can focus our full attention on the matters before us. To my fellow board members, district staff, any members of the public, when speaking, please make sure that your microphone is turned on and speak directly into it so that our YouTube and Orange TV viewers have an opportunity to hear you clearly. Again, thank you so much for participating in this evening. We're going to begin with a moment of silence, and then I'll invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, we have one proclamation this afternoon. Sorry, thank you. And that's a proclamation proclaiming January 2022 as National Mentoring Month here in Orange County Public Schools. And since we won't be back at the very beginning of January, we wanted to announce that at this time. Dr. Jenkins, do you have any newly appointed administrators to recognize?
I have two. I'd like to recognize, in absentia, I believe, Madison Brown Jones, who was a resource teacher at Rolling Hills, will be the new assistant principal at Lovell Elementary School. And then we have Travis Edward Bryant, who is acting AP at Lake Nona High School. He will become the official assistant principal at Lake Nona High School. That is it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. So we congratulate and appreciate their new service and wish them the best, and are confident in their future endeavors with our students. Let me ask Dr. Jenkins, we have a strategic plan business roundtable update. Can I defer to you at this time?
Absolutely. Very excited. We've had a project going for some time now under Deputy Superintendent Maria Vasquez. I think you may recall we've had a few comments in the past about, are there things that we can reinvent, that we can invigorate, that we can transform after going through a pandemic that really did essentially shut down the way we knew schools to run. And so Dr. Vasquez has been tasked with some of that reimagining, and the first report to bring back to the board, I'm very excited about it, has to do with business roundtables and what leaders in our business community have been sharing with us in our CTE program, and that can impact K through 12. We certainly acknowledge the first transformation we have the potential for is at the high school level. So Dr. Vasquez is going to share with you, along with her CTE assistant, I believe, share with you what's been going on in those roundtables. Dr. Vasquez?
Thank you, Superintendent Jenkins. For more than 18 months, we've worked to support and engage learners amid an ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The virus is leading to new trends in what was already a changing labor market. Automation of low-skill occupations, a growing cadre of remote employees, and even workers' reevaluation of the jobs they want to pursue are clear indications that our understanding of the workforce has evolved and demands we reimagine our schools to be able to not only ensure every student has a promising and successful future, but also our ability to create enriching and diverse pathways that lead our students to success. Creating high-quality pathways requires we create a structured sequence of academic courses, technical trainings, and related work experiences that help learners develop the skills and knowledge they need to be successful in the career of their choice. As a result of the pandemic, we face new challenges. Our response to COVID-19 has given us new options to use technology and innovation to respond to the needs of our students and support our business community workforce. Given these challenges, we must ensure our students have opportunities to pursue high-quality, affordable pathways from K-12 to post-secondary education and career. This requires rethinking traditional boundaries of education and workforce systems to design a more integrated set of experiences that can lead to a post-secondary credential and workplace readiness. So, how do we best conduct and organize this work? We chose a business roundtable approach to dive deeply and strategically with some of the area's largest companies in order to address these challenges. As we look to build a resilient foundation for our Reimagined Schools, we plan on taking a research-driven approach to develop a framework for the future. Building on existing models like the Brookings Shared Accountability Model, in concert with critical findings from groups like MC, the Orlando Economic Partnership, and Excel in Ed, we strongly believe we can build a system for lasting change. In 2020, the Brookings Metro Policy Program ran an inclusive economics indicator lab to help 3 regions, Indianapolis, Memphis, and Orlando, develop compelling and influential indicator projects that use metrics to drive more inclusive local economic outcomes. The framework identifies 3 phases, beginning with steps to set the conditions for success by identifying key stakeholders to ensure we are reflecting the values and objectives of growth-focused and equity-focused organizations in our region, and agreeing on shared definitions and motivations for pursuing inclusive economic growth. The business roundtables provide a starting point to these discussions. Beginning October 13th and concluding last week, we hosted 6 business roundtables at related industry partner locations with roughly 30 to 40 attendees per session. Each roundtable was themed around a critical sector: advanced manufacturing, health science, IT, hospitality, and modeling and simulation. During our roundtables, we spoke about the current climate in education and our need to innovate more. The roundtables were designed to both educate the business community of our work for students and to garner critical feedback on how we can reimagine our schools through the expansion and development of new career pathways. We accomplished this through engaging tabletop exercises and question and answer sessions. We posed 3 main topics to the roundtable attendees. What are your high-need, hard-to-fill positions? How can we partner to create better learning opportunities for students? And what are the credentials of value that matter in your organization and industry? The first priority was determining the high-need, hard-to-fill positions in business and industry, since we are interested in identifying gaps in programming. All sectors indicated they are desperate for help and indicated a significant lack of qualified candidates from entry to middle to high-level jobs. Business and industry partners desire to collaborate with Orange County Public Schools towards a solution, provided those efforts are organized and managed using a centralized structure. Employers repeatedly and with passion identified the area of soft or durable skills as an area of high need. Here are 2 examples of how we can integrate these learnings into our schools. Orlando Health came to us with the need to upskill applicants to be qualified as pre-CNAs. Our Orlando campus team worked with Orlando Health staff members to create a training program designed to quickly fill this talent gap. To date, they've been able to hire 300 employees through this partnership. Another example is Orange Technical College skills-based program in the area of information technology. OCPS targeted internal TSR candidates for retraining, as well as displaced workers from hospitality and the tourism industry to micro-credentialing IT programs. These were fully funded through post-secondary CARES dollars. Students enrolled in the skills-based training program had the opportunity to earn certifications, making them immediately eligible for entry-level positions within the IT field. CTE worked in conjunction with our HR department and IT department to develop an internal talent pipeline to fill high-demand, hard-to-fill positions within the OCPS IT department. We now have a strong desire from industry to grow these skill-based opportunities for secondary and high school students. All stakeholders outlined a need to create deeper and broader opportunities to educate students, parents, and community agencies regarding the career opportunities available to all students. Career exploration activities need to be designed to provide students from elementary through post-secondary relevant, engaging, and industry-based learning experiences. Employers shared that learning environments need to be flexible, immersive, focused around pathways, and mirror current industry requirements. Classrooms need to take a step forward through modern technology, innovation, and artificial intelligence to mirror the business world. Most importantly, there was a great optimism and excitement about reshaping our schools around project-based learning and stackable credentials. Now, let's take a look at a model that expands career opportunities for students. The work-based learning is a model in which students have sustained interactions with industry or community professionals in real workplace settings to the extent possible or through simulated environments at an educational institution. These interactions foster in-depth, firsthand experience in performing tasks that are required in a given career field and that are aligned to curriculum and instruction. A work-based learning continuum involves 3 types of experiences: career awareness, career exploration, and career immersion. Experiences are designed to increase in intensity over time as students move through the continuum. The continuum experiences are flexible, meaning different activities may overlap or occur multiple times throughout a student's learning. Other examples of career opportunities that were shared at the roundtables include developing innovative pathways via school within a school model for students outside of the traditional high school, creating an elementary school financial literacy model to serve as a district demonstration site, and developing a network to provide international internship opportunities for our high school students with an emphasis on entrepreneurship and globalization of business. The idea of skill-based hiring has been adopted by the Orlando Economic Partnership and is growing substantially across industry, with many employers creating their own credentialing, training, and onboarding programs. Local employers are engaged in the skills-based hiring process and indicated that degree attainment is not always required to gain medium to high wage career opportunities in all sectors. An executive from Apple shared during one of our roundtables that they have hired more individuals without college degrees than they have hired with college degrees. Business and industry partners are interested in working with OCPS to develop a model to micro-credential specific technical skills. Through these roundtables, we learned we have gaps in pathway offerings that need to be filled based on labor market demand. Manufacturing, healthcare, finance, and space aviation industries are examples of sectors where we can add programming to meet industry needs. And these programs lead to medium and high wage career opportunities for our students. No degree required. Now, that's not to say students cannot pursue college options, but rather graduating in OCPS with a strong foundation for their futures, having earned credentials of value that also articulate to post-secondary credit, giving students a leg up on future coursework. It will be critical to find willing partners in helping the district fill gaps in knowledge, namely technology, to work side by side with teachers on the student journey. A recent example is the district's work with the University of Florida and the Florida Department of Education in developing the first artificial intelligence pathway framework to develop and ensure teacher preparation. The roundtables shed light on the credentials employers value. These credentials include everything from a valid, clean driver's license to a high school diploma to various industry certifications such as Microsoft Office Specialist, Wastewater Operator, CNC Production and Machine Specialist, and many, many others. Credentials of value play an important role in communicating to employers the qualifications potential candidates possess and often lead to medium and high wage employment opportunities. Reimagining our schools will require us to alter the student experience to one that provides students options, flexibility, and support. Our next steps include the creation of a new sector-based advisory boards to develop systematic, highly effective strategic initiatives to engage students on a consistent basis. The creation of a Council for School Transformation who will analyze the roundtable data and provide insights into how we revise our instructional delivery model to provide more experiential learning opportunities for our students that align with new pathways. Develop the Orange County Public Schools work-based continuum that will provide career awareness and experiences to our students beginning at the elementary level. Continue to expand magnet opportunities such as the Global Research Institute focused on project-based learning. Our goal is to provide learners with high-quality academic and technical training through pathways that lead to high-skill, high-wage, high-growth occupations. The business roundtables have reaffirmed OCPS is essential in supporting the area's local economy and workforce. By collaborating with our community partners in new and innovative ways, we can reimagine our schools. Now is the time to rethink the use of time, place, and resources as we prepare our students to be college and career ready.
Thank you, Dr. Vasquez. 2 comments, and then we'll certainly answer any questions you might have and listen to your discussion. This was just a first step, a foray into this notion of reimagining. And I will tell you what I'm very excited about. First of all, 2 things. First of all, we had so many of our business partners not just engage, but almost insist that they can help us in these endeavors and willing to invest significantly on behalf of our children. I'm very pleased about that, very excited about that. I want to thank the OEP partnership for working with Dr. Vasquez to get those roundtables together. I'm also very excited for our students and what this can mean, that we can captivate their attention and inspire them and most importantly, launch them into a career pathway. And so what we've seen done in small numbers previously, I think we can start to see in large numbers for every one of our students having those career pathways open up for them. Very excited. This is just the initial discussion around it. We will be engaging certainly more of our teachers, board members, and additional businesses as we look to partner to reimagine. I've said before, I will say it again, after the pandemic and the shutdown, there is no returning to normal, and normal was overrated because it was not sufficiently serving every student. And so I think the new normal can include wonderful career pathways and opportunities and engagements with our business community so that our students are launched into a career path, many different facets, true to the board's actual vision and mission. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. And I'm going to hang on to that. The normal was overrated. I love it. Thank you. And we can always do better than the old normal. You're right. Let me call first on Member Castor-Dental.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Vasquez, for that presentation and sharing the efforts of bringing those businesses together. I think it's powerful to engage our business community in that way. I mean, we need their support and their investment to get this done, and this only serves our students better when they are trained and ready and have those high-tech skills and durable skills for almost any position, and those positions are available. And I really liked hearing about the financial education lab. And then I was looking at the businesses and corporations that were included in your roundtables, and I don't know how broad some of the areas are that they're training for, but I would like to suggest, if I may, that we also include some areas surrounding sustainable renewable energy and sustainability jobs that can transfer to any business or corporation, because that will not only serve our students but their future when we are focused on our climate changes and our needs there, because I know those are great, and that's another area of opportunity for innovation and STEM fields, and if I can help in any way, I'm happy to. But thank you very much. I think that's great to align these programs with the businesses so that our students can leave and be ready and go right into a high-paying job. Thanks.
Great comments. Member Gallo.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Vasquez, for this great presentation. It hit all the high notes, like the exposure at an early age. Kids don't know what's available if we don't expose them to it early, so they don't know that it might be a field of interest or for them. I would argue that the word normal should just be thrown out. I think it's very subjective, and I would replace it with innovation, because my normal is going to be way different than anybody else's normal, and that's a good thing. But I do have some questions, but this is fabulous. What we're doing for our students and what we will be offering, the collaboration with our business partners, and what we'll be able to do not just for our students, but for our community as a whole is going to be a game changer. And so I'm super excited for all of our students and for OCPS. But I have, a couple of questions. The credentialing, like how, you talked a lot about high quality credentialing, high quality programming. How do we define that? Like, how do we define what is high quality credentials over something that wouldn't be high quality? Is it the market value? And if it's the market value, how do we track to see if it's a success? So if we know that a child or a student got credentialed in a certain place, do we do any type of tracking to say, yes, that student has been successful in that area of expertise and has moved on and is thriving in the community?
So there are several metrics around the credentialing, and we track those as well as the outcomes and how they are placed. That's something that we review regularly with our team to ensure that there are viable pathways for our students.
And do we track if the student Like, do we track it, post-secondary or when they're in the
Yes.
workforce? Yeah, job placement. Thank you, Pam. Pam's really the expert on this. Do we track them in the job placement?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have various metrics that we use to be able to measure the successes that are part of the programming.
Awesome. And then you talked, one of the things mentioned in the roundtables was really the lack of soft and durable skills. Can you give us some examples of like a soft skill or a durable skill and maybe what our plan is to make sure that we're teaching those to our students?
So soft skills deal with skills having to do with conversation, how you're engaging with individuals, sort of the personable interactions, and those are difficult to teach. And so a lot of the work that we do really involves real work experiences, real opportunities to practice those types of skills.
So do we have plans like to expand on, because we live in a digital world, and one would argue that the reason that we have the lack of soft skills is because we're so digital and children can't make eye contact. They don't know how to have a conversation properly. I mean, there's just a lot that, and I'm hearing the same things that a lot of the leaders will tell you, that just they can't handle conflict. So I just didn't know, are we going to try to be intentional on helping our children, our students, learn those skills?
Yes, and through program evaluations, exit interviews, we identify those areas that we might need to work more with our students and add additional training and support. And the soft skills is definitely one. I think that requires more practice. We're seeing in some of this younger generation that they do have less interactions with individuals, and so that is a skill that takes practice, and that's infused through the programming.
That's wonderful. Again, I think that this is wonderful, and I'm so glad that that OCPS is a part of it, and I just can't wait to see what comes of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Gallo. Vice Chair Byrd.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dr. Vasquez. This is exciting stuff. I know we've had several conversations. I know I've had conversations with Melanie as well, that how important engaging the community, the business community, is for our success, and how much we really need that partnership to help our kids. And I love the whole idea of reimagining education. I was just having a conversation today with someone about making classrooms more engaging, getting kids excited about learning, and it hasn't been that way for a long time for our kids. So so I love this, and I think you touched on something really important, and that was educating the business community. I think is a really important point. I think that that sometimes we think everybody knows the programs or what's going on or what we need, but really they really don't. And like Dr. Jenkins said, we are so fortunate to live in this community that has so many companies that are willing to be partners with us, and they're so generous with their resources and their time. And so I think we really need to hone in on that, and I love that that's what you're doing with this. Like Randall Academy is a great example. That's a business that had a need for construction workforce in Apopka. So they took one of their warehouses, built it into a school, and partnered with us with school choice and created a Randall Academy, where kids go to get their classes in the morning, and then they go to work at Randall learning construction skills in the afternoon. And they're getting paid while they're in school. So that's great. And speaking of getting paid, those kinds of partnerships, I think, are so fantastic, because so many of our kids, a lot of our families struggle, and a lot of families rely on their kids to help pay those bills. And when I talk to principals in my area about kids that they can't get to that finish line for graduation, that's usually the comment, is that it's because they have to make money, and school, they're not making money sitting in school for 7 hours a day. So anywhere we can look to find those kinds of partnerships where businesses might be willing to do paid internships. I think that would be really advantageous for some of our kids that we've got to keep them engaged and let them get their diploma, but also meet those needs of their families. And I love the early exposure as well, as Member Gallo said. I know that an organization I'm involved with, iBuild, they do these middle school construction camps over the summer in some of the districts around our area, and those kids leave those summer camps like so excited about industry things, you know, that they never even thought of, you know, or never even knew that these were jobs. And it just maybe plants that one little seed, you know, just like you said, in elementary or middle school that could grow into something else. And then just real quick, soft skills, I will just reiterate that debate is a great way to build those soft skills. So you know how I feel about that initiative. So, you know, I would encourage us to keep pushing our debate initiative in the district, because that's a great way for kids to learn those interactions and how to speak to other people and everything. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll need to continue to build on those durable skills that our students tend to lack because they may be more focused on the technology aspect of it.
All right. Member Gold.
Yay. Could you bring up slide 12, please? So, this has been a dream of mine and collective dream. It's not only my dream. There's been many board members, Linda in particular, and I did some initiatives early on when she came in. This is exactly the kind of integrated career pathing that we need. Two cautions that I always have. One is, if kids are not on that path to higher education, they need to graduate certified. And everybody hears me say that. And I know that's in this plan, but I can't stress that enough. They need to be certified in something. If they have trouble, and this is something we've struggled with combating right now, those lower level learners that are really still struggling with basics, in order to get them across the finish line because of state statute, we have to pull them out and give them extracurricular things out of extracurricular and get them, you know, help in reading, help in math skills, whatever that discipline is that is a graduation requirement. Those students may not get to participate in this as robustly. And so what short certifications can we offer, i.e. driving a fork truck, i.e. sous chef skills, can we offer that take 3 days, 5 days, 30 days to accomplish, so that when they cross the finish line, because they get there with the help of our folks, they have a job skill that puts them at still a higher competitive level than maybe their peers and gives them access to a career. So I don't want to leave out those that won't naturally flow into this. I know this is to kind of help everybody get excited a little bit more about school, which should actually help with the engagement earlier, because we've seen it time and time again. If they have a hands-on experience that gets them excited, even if they're struggling with reading, all of a sudden the reading scores go up. There's just no question. So those are just a few of the things. And to the education of the community, leadership, OCPS, Leadership Orange, does a great job. And it shows all the back of house stuff, but I'm not sure how much we immerse those leaders in some of the creative curriculum. And one thing that I think about is that middle school groups that go into Universal, and Universal partnered with another education, never mind the Art of Tomorrow, but that's separate. They go in and they learn the velocity of a roller coaster, because they have to actually go out and try to guess before using their formulas and see how accurate they were, and then they go out and watch Rock and Roller Coaster. Wrong park. Whoops. But they watch it go, and they have to mark the trajectories of that. I don't think people know that we have those kind of innovative, hands-on things sprinkled in already, and that we have the opportunity to grow them. So that might be a way to deliver curriculum just rather than on our traditional, they know what a classroom looks like, but maybe looking at some of those alternatives to really share, you know, the I-Build programs and the partnerships that we built with Dr. Phillips Charities, with the construction. Those are hands-on, real-world experiences. And, of course, they already go to the tech center, so they see how phenomenal the course structure is there. But I think if we could get them understanding, because I still, every room I go into, we should bring back vocational training. I took shop. We have certification trainings everywhere. So those are just a few thoughts, but I want to end this on super positive. Wow, and thank you. And I can't believe how robust this is going to become, and it's amazing.
Awesome. Member Byrd, Vice Chair Byrd.
Sorry, I just thought of something. Member Gould reminded me of another point that I wanted to make, that when we're talking about the industry, you know, I think it's all of our jobs to share that with them as much as we can, you know, and she's right that they really don't know. Yesterday I took an agriculture industry leader in our area nationwide. I took her on a tour of our agri-science magnet at Wekiva. And she was like so impressed, but mostly she was impressed at what we were offering the kids. So there's so much land that the school has dedicated to this magnet. She couldn't get over, you know, they have a whole aquaponics thing. She's, you know, the research possibilities that could go on there, you know, and then they have the culinary magnet. So the partnership between them growing vegetables and cooking them, you know, she was blown away. And the teacher, you know, Mr. Yus at Wekiva is phenomenal. And he did a great job hosting it. So she was so impressed that later that night she emailed me and thanked me for bringing her. And then I asked her if she might be interested in serving on our advisory board for the magnet, and she was like, absolutely, because you know, this is what she has expressed to me numerous times, the concern for workforce labor, people that are willing to go into agriculture. You don't hear anybody's kids saying that's what my life dream is, but without agriculture none of us eat. So so she loves the idea that we're immersing these kids in these ag programs at the schools. So that was a perfect example of a powerhouse business person that is now going to be engaged in the program, but did not know about this opportunity before that. So my 2 cents would be spread the word as much as you can and engage them as much as you can.
Thank you. Member Felder.
Yes, Dr. Vasquez, wonderful presentation. And when I look at this work-based learning continuum, we are an educational facility here, and we are about the business of educating our children. I continue to marvel at the many opportunities this district offers to students as it relates to learning, because we only got them 12 years, and it seems like a long time, but that's not a long time. I remember vividly my first day of school, and next week I'll be 65 years old. So I'm so excited about the opportunity, even from kindergarten. You're looking at grades 8th and then 9th. You know, we have to, in the midst of all this madness, we must always, as leaders of education, we must always offer to our students a ray of hope. And this presentation gives them that. It also gives parents, and again, I'm not going to repeat a lot of what my colleagues up here said about education and, of course, vocational education, but business. That's what makes the world go round. That is why people do what they do, because they want to have wealth. And the way you have wealth is when you are empowered and you have a skill that somebody wants to invest in, and you can tell them how much it's going to cost them to invest in your skill if that's what they want. So I just want to say that I thought this is a beautiful presentation, and I'm excited about the little kindergartners. I mean, you can start right from there. Right there, I often tell my friends in closing, I don't have any biological children, but if I did, at the time they're able to suck on a bottle, everybody would make money because they'll go in a commercial. Everybody got to bring money in the house. So I am so, they'll be doing the Gerber commercial, yeah. So I'm excited about what you're doing, and I just want to thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Member Felder. Well, excellent job. I know the board has said it all, but this is exactly what the board wants to see happening, and we're excited. The collaboration in and of itself is meaningful, because when we involve our business communities, we all work together better, but the opportunities for our students are just unlimited. So I know Member Gould discussed it, but anything that we can do to remove barriers for our kids who are struggling, because I constantly worry that they're going to give up, and that motivation of seeing there's something out there for me, there's something I can do, there's hope, and there's a good positive path forward, I think, is what our kids that are struggling the most need the most out of us. So thank you, congratulations, and we'll move on to the agenda. Dr. Jenkins, any changes to our agenda?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Okay, if there's no changes, I will entertain a motion to accept and approve the agenda as published. Is there a motion? Motion by Member Colbert. Is there a second? Second by Vice Chair. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are going to move on to item 3.01, our public hearing. I am so sorry. Member Gould, of course. No, please.
I just want to highlight this. We just passed a proclamation for Mentor Month, and I'll tell you, between Find Your Voice, Generation Wow, Latinos in Action, My Brother's Keeper, our days where we bring in, teach in, all of those things, our partners with the YMCA and the Boys Club and the Girls Club and Rotaries, all have an incredible, incredible impact on students. And anyone who listens to this, if you're not currently a mentor in our schools, please sign up, because if you want to see a difference in education, that is the path to it. And by the way, Gen Wow will be in the end of January, so watch. Young ladies and young men are welcome to watch too, for the Gen Wow Positive and Possible. I call it a party convention inspirational moment, because that's kind of what it is, and it will be virtual again this year. But thank you, and thank you to all our mentors.
Thank you. All right, we are on item 3.01, Public Hearing for Reapportionment Advisory Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Nval in just a minute. But before doing so, I do want to take a moment to recognize and appreciate our chair of the Reapportionment Committee, Woody Rodriguez, our former general counsel, and somebody who has dedicated an enormous amount of time and energy to Orange County Public Schools and continues to do so, also serving on our foundation, and willing to take on this huge responsibility in a very short period of time. And I also want to recognize all the members of the Reapportionment Advisory Committee. And anybody in the room that served, would you stand so that we can recognize you? I will tell you, when I walked in the room and saw the group of individuals, as I said at the time, I knew personally about half of them. I knew most of them by reputation, and I was just in awe. I want to congratulate this board for doing a phenomenal job of picking the best reapportionment committee I think anybody could have hoped for. And I followed the process, and I want to say the progress, and stayed in touch through Woody throughout the entire time. But I was constantly reminded of the professionalism that you brought to this, the understanding that you brought to what your responsibility was, the seriousness that you brought, but also the ability to debate and to take on these issues and to do it in a respectful fashion. I would say that it was a model that our citizens should watch and emulate, because you did exactly what we asked of you and more. So God bless you. Thank you. And now you're going to hand it over to us, and hopefully we will not disappoint you. I'm hoping we can make you proud. Mr. Rodriguez, let me turn to Ms. Nval, and she will announce Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. It has been an exasperating and fast-paced 10-week process since we received the 2020 census on September 30th. This group has been amazing to work with. We kind of started off slow because we were waiting for public input and had a couple issues with software, but once we got the maps flowing, the committee considered 19 maps, and your chair, Rodriguez, is going to go over those for you. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him. Looks like he's got it all set up.
Thank you, Ms. Nval. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is, I will say, sort of a labor of love. This is one of the things I knew I was going to miss when I left you guys a few years ago. Just a very brief history. Back when I was in the legislature, as one of our board members used to say, my first assignment almost right out of law school was working on reapportionment with a district that was challenged all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. So I carried the bags of really amazing lawyers and got my name on the inside cover of a U.S. Supreme Court brief. That's as close as I will ever get, and that's okay. But that sort of spurred a life passion for this kind of work, and I was fortunate enough to be in 2001 at the Orange County government, Orange County Attorney's Office, and did their reapportionment then, was here with you guys in 2010. So this is the first time I actually get to vote on the plans and the proposals, so I'm excited to share the work of our committee. And it really was, I can't say this enough, I know that you said this, Madam Chair, but this was an incredible committee. The depth and breadth, the diversity of thought from Cran Riley, who I've admired and worked with for years as a member of the Unitary Status Committee. We had a teacher, we had developers. Julian impressed the heck out of me as a very young fellow, I think, in my estimation, but he brought folks to the meeting so they would learn, and all of our members met diligently. We met quorum and exceeded quorum. They did a fantastic job, and as you pointed out, I've pointed out to many other folks, I've watched what the Orange County Commission is doing in their committee, and our committee handled all of those difficult issues that come with reapportionment, race and dividing communities and which lines should work and whether you use a highway or something else. But they handled that, and when they had differences of opinion, they respected each other immensely. So I do think they do deserve a tremendous round of applause and appreciation for the work they did. So our presentation tonight is a couple of things. First of all, it's just a very quick primer for the board, because you will ultimately be making the decision on which of these plans, proposals you will select. But we'll give you that overview, which was taken from a presentation from your general counsel to our committee. We'll also explain some of the activities that we had, some of the legal fundamentals and traditional legal principles, as well as some of the recommendations based on the 3 plans that you received. I'll figure out the PowerPoint here. And you can see there the members, like I said before, I know they stood up before, but they really, they came from different communities. We had folks that were professionals. We had professional parents. Those parents that stay at home, they have tremendous input. They know more about what's going on in their community sometimes than those of us that are working. So a really great group. And like I said, this process would not have been the same without their input. So we start with section 1001.36 of the Florida statutes. This is the statute that charges the school board to reevaluate every so often the school boundaries that you have. By law, every 10 years when the census comes out with new numbers, you now have an opportunity to reassess, are you meeting the principles of one person, one vote? And through that process, we learned that, sure enough, as we suspected, certain areas of the county grew immensely and other areas did not grow at the same pace. So Ms. Gould and another one of the districts, District 4 and District 2, had way too much population, as you'll see, and other areas had the right amount for them, but certainly did not keep pace. One of the tremendous challenges was in getting the information. We cannot just do it based on our own numbers. We have to rely on certified numbers by the census, and those numbers, because of COVID, were significantly delayed this year. We did receive them on September 30th, and our charge was to try and finish this presentation and your selection before the end of this calendar year, because the statutes call for you to do it in odd-numbered years. Now, historically, the school board has recreated this process to call it the Reapportionment Advisory Committee, trying to stay away from things like rezoning and redistricting. I can tell you the number one issue that we addressed, and everyone, and Joey Cadle, I forgot to mention, could not be here tonight. She wanted me to make sure to let you know, former school board member, but she brought that experience with her. And from day one, she would tell us all, you know, please remind the audience that this is not for rezoning of the school zones. We did a wonderful job with our Connect Orange calls. In fact, I got mine when we were in our district and not realizing that we had been sending these out all along, which was impressive. But sure enough, at every meeting, we had at least one or two parents that would show up thinking, this is going to impact my child's school zone. It's going to impact my elementary school, my middle school, my high school. So we would start every meeting with that caveat. Sometimes, most of the times when they heard that, they would quietly leave and go, I've got better things to do with my time, which we understood. But again, this is for those in the audience today who may be concerned. One last caveat, these maps will not impact where a child attends school. However, these do determine where we all get to vote for our elected officials. So what are some of the things that the Reapportionment Advisory Committee did to make sure we got the word out as quickly as possible? Well, we have it on the website, and we did take out newspaper advertisements. I know they use social media and text, but truly your Connect Orange system, which you have, is probably the most effective way that we had as an opportunity to get the word out. As another way of gathering public input, though, I watched some of the committee meetings that the county was also having, and they would have 2 or 3 individuals that would attend. Those comments I would bring back to our committee whenever possible, because I figured if you were attending a county commission meeting and saying to them that you wanted Orla Vista to stay together, or you wanted us to take into you wanted them to take into consideration lines and how they impacted Edgewater Drive, you would probably say the same thing to our committee. You just didn't have the value of time of going to every committee that does that. So we took those into account as well. And we did have sort of an entourage, a group of individuals that took it upon themselves. I told our committee, we are all members of the public, even though we serve on this committee. But we were asked to serve. We had at least 5 or 6 individuals that would show up at almost all of our committees, and we thanked them as well for their input, whether they spoke or whether they just met with us afterwards. It was very much a great process as well. One of the things the public webpage did provide, though, was a constant ability for the public to be engaged for those that chose to do so. It provided the meeting schedule, the video and audio links, some frequently asked questions, all of our materials, as well as any comments that were received, an opportunity to submit electronic public comments in advance, and those were limited, but we did have those distributed to our committee members in advance of our meeting. We had a specific email address, which was monitored by staff. We had our proposed maps, and then, of course, the ability to create your own map. And you will hear today that we actually had not one, but several maps that were created by what I would call members of the public, members that weren't on our committee. So we held 10 public meetings. 7 of those occurred at local area schools. We held one in each of our school board member districts to make sure we got a flavor for all of the community. Members of the public, as I mentioned, were not only encouraged, they were invited to attend all of them, and we always had an opportunity for public comments to be shared. There are 3 main redistricting criteria that the school board should adhere to, must adhere to. Those include equal population, and that's the simple notion that one person, one vote. I will share with you that when we did congressional districts, they were not just one person, one vote, but the variation had to be within one person. So they take the population of the state of Florida, They divide it by the total number of congressional seats, and you're either right on the number, or you're one over, or you're one below, but that is it. You don't get the chance to have any percentage of variation. For local districts, understanding communities of interest and other factors, the courts have held that a plus or minus of 5% is sufficient. Meaning if your standard is 100,000 per district, you can have a district that maybe goes up to 105 or has as little as 95,000, and that combined variation, that deviation that they call it, should be no more than 10%. The closer you are to zero, of course, the closer you are to assuring you've got that one person, one vote. The federal anti-discrimination laws are simply put, we're charged not to discriminate on the basis of race, gender, ethnicity, religion, or any other factors. And that was never really a concern or consideration that we had to work with our committee. And then our traditional redistricting principles, these are laid out in the next slide, but these are factors that the courts have said these are the bare minimum you should consider. And most of these are objective criteria. When you see them, you'll understand, well, obviously these are things we should all consider and take into account. So compactness is one that, for the most part, you can look at a district and tell it's not long and stringy. I know there were some good samples that Ms. Nval shared with the group, but there have been a number of challenges over how a district will be drawn in such a way so that they can grab certain populations, whether it's for political purposes or racial purposes. Contiguity means that you have to have a district that is contiguous and carries from one side to the next, and there are no gaps in the districts. You cannot stop at State Road 436 and then pick up several miles later and continue the district unless there's some way of connecting. In Florida, because of the number of bodies of water, the courts have said you can, of course, cross bridges and other bodies of waters, lakes, etc., to capture population, but for the most part, you're using roads as well. The preservation of political subdivisions, this is done to avoid the disruption of cities and towns. Those are established subdivisions, but there's also communities of interest. This is where you get into some more of those gray areas. What exactly is a community of interest? That's where we relied on our community members that participated in this process. That's where we looked at things like the census designated places, which are these nebulous areas that are not incorporated, but people know them and they kind of have a sense of where they are. The town of Eatonville has very specific boundaries. But Lockhart, for example, is not a city, and they may or may not have boundaries that are recognized. Pine Hills is an area that, as Mr. Riley told us to our committee, that boundary will change depending on how long you've been in Orlando and what you consider to be the area of Pine Hills. But the census has designated those areas, and so we looked at those areas and tried to match and keep them from being divided as much as possible. The preservation of cores of prior districts, meaning the existing districts, this is important because every time you remove an individual from the existing district, that means they voted for one of you, and in their next election when they go to vote, they're going to look and say, why am I no longer able to vote for that person? They're still on the school board. And so it does not mean you have to preserve them exactly the same, but it does mean that the more you displace voters, the more frustration they're going to have, the more likelihood it is that you'll have a challenge, and the more likelihood it is that those districts may not match up with your community standards as undertaken by the last group 10 years ago. And then the last topic is avoiding the pairing of incumbents. With school board specifically, they talk about the notion that we should have incumbents, not necessarily protected, that's not an appropriate term, but making sure you don't place two incumbents in the same district, because that would mean one of them would be unable to truly fulfill their term if they are required to reside in their district. So every one of these districts were drawn with all 6 of those factors. Any one of the 3 you pick tonight will, with flying colors, pass those legal bare minimum standards. We also looked at some other key factors. The first and foremost of those was the number of high schools. And I'm going to pick on poor Ms. Gould, but she had only 3 10 years ago in her district. After she got elected, somehow we jumped up to 6. Why? Because Horizons West exploded, right? So in that period of time, that meant, as Ms. Cato pointed out, 6 graduations, 6 football games times whatever number, 6 number of concerts and so forth, and all these events, plus 6 times the number of parents that are contacting you, because it's not based on if you contact your school board member necessarily based on where you reside. Many times you're going to contact the school board member who has that high school in their district. And as you all well know, it doesn't matter who calls you, you're going to answer their call. But more likely than not, if that school is in your district, you're going to have to pay extra special attention to help them, and you've got a rapport with those schools. So we looked at the high school specifically. Our goal was to try and make sure that each school board member had a minimum of 3 and no more than 4. And I think for all of these maps, that was accomplished as well. We looked at the attendance zones for high schools, in part to think that if we can get as many percentage of those individuals residing in your district that you have that high school, that's also beneficial. We looked at feeder patterns to some extent with elementary and middle schools. We looked at projected development and future growth. A lot of time was spent. Brent Downs and Tommy Moore, who are here today, who are part of your OCPS staff, did an incredible job of feeding us this information kind of piecemeal, meeting by meeting, and telling us, oh, we're now talking about District 6, now we're talking about District 7, now we're talking about District 3, and kind of going through those growth areas so that we had a better understanding. Some people came in with a tremendous wealth of knowledge in those areas, but some of our other committee members, this was a great benefit to them to understand that the east and the west sides have districts that are surely to grow, but you can't draw those districts with such a negative number. You still have to stay within that plus or minus 5%. Then we also looked at what are called minority-majority districts and the composition of those. Specifically, District 5 had over 50% African-American population, and we had 2 districts that were close to or exceeded 50% in Hispanic populations. Those districts, you cannot overpack and you cannot dilute them. If we took District 5 and made it 25% African American and dispersed that population throughout the county, that would certainly lead to a legal challenge. By the same analysis, if all of a sudden District 5 consisted of 65 or 70%, it could be seen that your motives were racially motivated. Does that mean that that's the case? Possibly, but the reality is that those questions would then have to be answered in a court of law, answered in a format that would require judges and learned individuals and experts to testify as to what the motives were for the committee and the board, and that leads to an excess amount of expenditures for the district. So we tried as best we could to make sure that we avoided those pitfalls. And finally, the shape and configuration of the districts. The Supervisor of Elections Office also gave us a brief tutorial on what their preferences were. Many times they know that they have to put our layer down, but you'll have a layer that comes in from the county. You'll have another layer that'll come in, and it'll be from the state, in which they'll draw their state House districts, their state Senate districts, and finally their state congressional districts. So if we start to use lines and roads that perhaps are not as likely to be followed by others, then what will happen is they will have districts in the Supervisor of Elections Office that will have multiple ballots needed to be created. Whenever possible, we tried to use things like major highways, or if we had geographic features, whether they were lakes or other areas, and then the census designated places, as I talked about before. All right, so this is the existing data. As you can see, they show you districts 1 through 7, and the population back in 2010 was 1.1 million. Today, our population in Orange County has grown to 1.4 million. And you could see the deviation shows you what percentage those districts were either above or below. And unfortunately, once you start moving population out of one district, it's like a cycle. You move them into another, well, now you perhaps need to move something else out of that district, and so you place those individuals somewhere else on some other border, and it's always a constant shift. That was the part that probably took the longest for some of our members who took the time to draw the maps. You also were provided a list of tables, and I'm not going to present all the information there because this was given to you. It's also available online, but our staff had prepared things like our high school location comparison, which told you which high schools were in each new district or proposal, as well as which ones remain the same. The percentage of essentially what percentage of the population existed from that high school. A breakdown by census designated places as well as municipalities. A comparison to the deviations, that one was simple enough, and that was usually on most of the maps, as well as the district demographic comparisons. The school locational alignment, we did not receive this, but it's for your benefit as board members for you to review and say, okay, not only am I looking at high schools, but what elementary schools and middle schools will I now be charged with to work with in the future. And finally, the displacement comparison. Again, we didn't have table 6 or 7. The displacement comparison shows you a comparison between the 3 proposals. How many individuals were physically moved from one district to another? Your goal there would be to get to the lowest number possible. So the recommendations, we had 14 proposals that were submitted by reapportionment members. We had 5 proposals that were submitted by members of the public, and all of the proposals submitted by a member of the public we did sponsor. We did make a rule that it had to be sponsored by one of us, mainly to avoid having to spend time analyzing a proposal that we knew would fail if it was submitted, if it failed some of the legal criteria. But all of the legal proposals we received met that and exceeded that. And we had at least 5 members of our committee that created maps. In particular, I want to call out Mr. William McNarney. Are you here? Please stand, be recognized. William is a freshman at Dr. Phillips High School. In 10 years, I suggest you all fight to figure out which one of you will appoint him to the next committee. But he deserves a significant round of applause. William. 2 of the maps that we have tonight are actually proposals that he worked on, and one was a combination of his map as well as the other half of another public proposal, an individual that we never saw come to our meetings. He just submitted the information online. So I will say that, again, this was a process where the committee was open. They were knowledgeable, but we certainly, we did not label any of our maps as my map or your map. We knew who the presenters were, but every one of these was a committee proposal because we were taking ideas from each other as we heard. And those maps at the beginning that sounded like great ideas, by the end we knew, okay, those did not make any sense because now we've heard from you, we've heard from the public. So I'm going to briefly go through the maps. You were also provided 3 maps with each one of these proposals. The maps will show you either, and these are again available online, the current school board districts are the multicolored. It's harder for those in the audience to see, but as you can tell, for example, in District 1, it stretches beyond the black line into the central part of the map. That's Commissioner Gallo, or Board Member Gallo's district, and that includes currently some portions of Winter Park and Azalea Park. So this committee proposal changed the boundaries so that in the future, anything in green now would go into Board Member Castor-Dental's current district, District 6. These changes were helpful for us to identify areas we were moving in comparison one map to another. Committee Proposal 16 is one of the 3 maps you see before you. We also had for each one of these maps high school zones. These maps also represented in different colors and shades the different existing high schools, so you would be able to understand how much of that percentage of the high schools you're capturing in each of the districts. So just as an overview, with regards to Committee Proposal 16, here are some of the key distinctive features as they compare with the other 2 maps. For every one of these, for example, we moved Winter Park into District 6. For every one of these, Dr. Phillips was moved into District 5. West Orange was kept in District 4. Lake Buena Vista was moved into District 3. But for these 3 maps in particular, there were some key differences that will help you tonight in making some of your decisions. This map has Evans still remaining in District 6. It has Boone also remaining in District 3. It uses the Florida Turnpike as the dividing boundary between Districts 4 and 7, but as a result, Oakland and Winter Garden, which were previously divided, continue to be divided under this map. Proposal 16 was also the only one that was unanimously approved by the committee, but I will say this, in terms of the votes, some of the votes on the maps were more with regard to just whether or not they would move them forward at that time. But all 3 maps, like we said before, were approved in the sense of by a majority of the members of the committee. So this is Committee Proposal 18. This is one of the 2 that William helped prepare with the help of Ms. Cadle. As you can see, this would be a very different configuration than Proposal 16. It includes all of Lake Buena Vista's zone into Commission District or School Board Member District 3. It also uses, even though it's a scraggly line, it uses the Winter Garden boundary lines as a dividing line between 6 and 7. And that's a key distinction because now all of Winter Garden is located in District 4 as opposed to its current division as well as Oakland. This map also places Evans in District 5. That was one of the requests we heard from Board Member Felder, and it was important for us to make sure we acknowledged your comments, not because of your preferences, but because you have the experience of being in the community and understanding what your community wants as well. So when we heard from board members, when we heard from your committee members, we understood this is coming with wisdom in working in your communities. This is the map that shows the high school zones, and again, the key distinctions are Evans is now placed in District 5. Boone is now in District 6. It uses the City of Winter Garden boundaries as a dividing boundary between 4 and 7. Proposal 18 was approved by the committee, but what was the one flashpoint was the comment regarding Evans. There was a lot of divisiveness about what the status of Evans should be. We heard lots of testimony, mostly in favor of keeping Evans in District 6. But to bring to this board only proposals that had Evans in District 6, I think would have been unfair to Board Member Felder and those that we had a few that said we think it should be in District 5. So we thought as an option for the board, we'd let you do the heavy lifting and determine which one of these proposals you would prefer. Finally, we have Committee Proposal 19. This is the one that matches on the eastern side. Really, the eastern side was a Proposal 7, Public Proposal 7. But on the western side, it was very similar, with the one exception being now in Proposal 19, Evans is back in School Board Member 6 in Castro-Dental's district. These are the high school zones. And the key distinctions here, again, it preserves the Lake Buena Vista High School zone. It does use Winter Garden as dividing boundary, as does 18. But the key distinctions are Evans, and Boone is now more evenly divided between 3 and 6, but it does put Boone in District 6. The last portion there of that comment regarding Proposal 19, we went back and double-checked, so that's not accurate with regards to it being rejected by members from District 3, but it was approved by a 13-4 vote, so it had a couple of dissenting votes as to the purpose of this proposal. So your considerations tonight are making sure that the census population is within plus or minus 5%, that minority voting interests are not being diluted, fragmented, or packed, that race is not your predominant factor in creating any districts, that districts are contiguous and appear to be compact with no irregularly shaped districts, that to the extent possible, municipalities are contained within a single district, and to the extent possible, neighborhoods and subdivisions are not divided, that each incumbent is still residing in her district, and that the percentage of residents who have been displaced is kept to a minimum. With that, I would suggest that all three of these meet those standards. And so this evening, you'll need to consider which of these maps to move forward. Then you will need to publish this map, usually as a link to the information online, as well as a submission of the map in its census-designated blocks to the Secretary of State and the Orange County Supervisor of Elections. With that, if you have any questions now at this time, I'll stand ready.
I think if you'd advance it to the next slide.
Oh.
Awesome.
There they all are.
All right. We have, before I take comments or questions from board members, we do have 4 members of the public that wish to offer comments. But before doing that, if there are questions, specifically questions that Mr. Rodriguez needs to answer now, let me know. Otherwise, I will go to the public. Member Colbert, you've pressed your button. Do you have a question for? Okay. All right. So if we can move forward, Mr. Rodriguez, stay handy in case we have questions in the future. You have a question at this time? Member Gallo. I said stay handy. I really meant it.
I know. I'm so sorry. And look, I just in the map 18. The reasons I know one of the concerns within the Avalon community was that we try to stay they try to stay together in a community. And Committee Proposal 18 puts Avalon Middle in District 2. So I was just curious as to the rationale behind not putting it in District 1. If there was a particular reason. The other two have Avalon Middle in District 1.
Yeah, I think we noticed that when we had that comparison table today. At least I noticed that today. I don't think there was probably, I don't have any specific knowledge. I don't know the committee discussed or debated that particular issue. That's obviously one that stands out on the chart when you're looking at it side by side. I know that William is here if you want to ask him, since he helped prepare that portion of the map. But
Wow.
I don't want to put William on
Okay.
the spot.
he was pretty good.
Unless he's comfortable being on
Oh,
the
I
spot.
don't
then
know.
I
I
would
just saw
William,
he
come
is.
on up.
Look
So-
at him.
Well, that's not my job, the chair.
Yeah, no, I saw.
Let me just say,
he's
his
up
mother
for
is our communications person at the Facilities Department for OCPS, Lauren Roth, former writer and a Sentinel writer. So I think he's
Wonderful.
comfortable with this whole debate concept
This
you
is
guys were talking about
awesome.
earlier.
He
Come on up,
he
William.
was
William.
wonderful the other evening when I saw
Yeah.
him present.
Okay, so my name is William McNarney. I live at 725 West Winter Park Street in Orlando, and I'm a ninth grader at Dr. Phillips High School in the Center for International Studies program. Committee Vice Chair Mrs. Cato asked me to make different proposals because of my interest in maps. I created Committee Proposal 18 and the western half of Committee Proposal 19. For both maps, 18 and 19, my goals were to even out the number of high schools in each district to 3 or 4 high schools, including Site 50 as a high school for District 4. Another goal was to relieve District 4 of 2 of their current 6 high schools, to retain a Hispanic majority district, to retain African American majority district, District 5, and to generally put district lines along more major roads or high school zone lines. Another thing I'm putting in there is the border between District 4 and District 7 is between the West Orange High School and Ocoee High School zones. Oh, and also in addition, both maps have Boone High School in District 6 for a couple reasons. For one, this was at the suggestion of Mrs. Cato. Edgewater and Boone High Schools have had a long history, and District 6 is more slow-growing compared to some of the other districts. The major differences here between the two maps is in that map 18, Evans High School is in District 5, while in Proposal 19, Evans High School is in District 6. Other than that, the eastern part of Proposal 19 has moved a few schools in the Avalon area at community request. So in the western boundaries of 19, with the Dr. Phillips Zone, Boone High School, Boone, West Orange, Lockhart, Lake Buena Vista, etc., were modified based on committee feedback, such as the moving of Lockhart to District 7. And in general, these are the boundaries between Districts 3 to 7, and of course, Winter Park between 6 and 1. So, are there any questions?
Avalon Middle School, was there a specific reason why in Committee Proposal 18 you left it in District 2, but in Proposal 19 it's in District 1?
I'm not exactly sure. Do you
That's
have
fine. That's okay. Don't worry about it. You did a great job, William. Thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
You were
Excellent.
phenomenal. Thank
Excellent.
you.
And I will add that in his defense, again, for Proposal 19, we took the right half, the eastern portion of the district from Public Proposal 7, because again, if we would have sent you his half, it would have been identical to the one in 18 and very similar to the one in 16. So we thought giving you some choices at least will get you some other things to look at.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, William.
And
Great
for the
job.
record, I don't think William needed any defense at all.
No.
Does
William,
anybody else
follow
have
up?
any other questions here?
Not at this time, but
yet?
you'll stay handy. Stay handy. All right, thank you. Member Lopez, and then we're going to open it up to comments from the public. Oh, you ready? Okay, thank you. All right, let's, we have 4 speakers from the public. We have Sandra Fatma Hall. Sandra, good to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. Good seeing you all. Thank you. All right. Good evening, Dr. Barbara Jenkins, board members, and all in attendance. My name is Sandra Fatmi Hall, and I stand here before you this evening as a resident and proven game changer of Pine Hills and surrounding areas. For several months, we have been attending the weekly reapportionment meetings throughout the county and know the importance of sharing with you this evening our strong and united advocacy to keep Evans High School in District 6. When you invest in your community, you have a responsibility to use your voice. Approximately 8 years ago, 5 community leaders came together and formed the United Foundation of Central Florida to empower communities one family at a time. After research, we discovered that Evans High School graduation rate was at 50% at that time. A year after forming the Future Leaders United After School Enrichment and Mentoring Program, we knew we had the responsibility to be the change we want to see. So with a passion for young people, we knew we had to bridge the gaps in our young people and community using a holistic approach. And we did just that through investment in the community, educational scholarships, and fulfilling needs. I proudly fast forward to today as the largest after-school enrichment and mentoring program in Evans High School. Please ask our representatives to please stand. Representing FLU this evening, which is the after-school program. Yes. I proudly enhance and let you know that with an investment through our village of over $200,000, we are proud to thank our board, our businesses, investors, partners, and everyone that has invested in the lives of our young people. Today, Evans has a graduation rate of over 95%. Yes. I would be remiss not to thank our principal, Bailey. Remember, leadership is not just a position, leadership is action. So as you can see, we have an outstanding group of young people. We're on a successful path with a village behind us and leaving Evans High School in District 6 under our current leadership at the school board will allow continuity for the benefit of our students, school, and families. Thank you to the committee members over the past 10 weeks for your hard work, week after week under amazing leadership. Let's give him a round of applause, please. I really appreciate how fair he was. Thank you, Dr. Barbara Jenkins and board members, for the opportunity to appeal to your hearts as you consider and place value on the voice of the public. And last but by no means least, having mentored over 500 students throughout Orange County, I represent every single person, and I vote for MAP 16 and to keep Evans High School where it is. Thank you.
Okay. I skipped over my part where I talk about no clapping and booing and hissing, and yeah, we were all bad. And I started it by recognizing Mr. Rodriguez and the entire committee and applause. So now that we are into the public comment portion, I'm going to have to, and now that we've all done a lot of clapping, and that felt really, really good, by the way, to be so positive, let's try to refrain from clapping. And I really appreciate the fact that this has been such a positive group, and I haven't earned any booing or hissing, so thank you for that also. Let's, and I misspoke. We did have 4 speakers, but since we've already heard from William, let me call on Cynthia Harris. Ms. Harris, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Try to get my notes kind of where I need to see them. I'm Cynthia Harris, 12 Channing Avenue, Orlando 32811. The residents of District 5 are an endangered species, and they must be protected. Our demographics have been used, but the money and the resources are not fairly distributed in our communities. We have environmental crisis with detrimental intrusion through gentrification. We have poor transportation, low-wage employment that puts us way behind the curve of fairness and opportunity. Imagine facing those dilemmas in your community. You cannot, because you've never had to face them. We've always had to strive to live up to your standards, but without thought, you've never had to live up to ours. When marking these district lines, I want you to think about the gentrification of the black communities located in District 5. I brought some numbers so that you can understand that there are 6 public housing units in District 5, that 5 of them are out of the 6 are permitted for demolition through Department of HUD in the city of Orlando. The first one is Murchison Terrace, located at 3527 North Wilk Circle. There are 190 units in that complex. The schools that are affected are Washington Shores Elementary, Jones High, Memorial, and we already lost Richmond Heights. Lorna Doone, located at 1617 West Central, has 104 units. We stand to lose Washington Shores, Orange Center, College Park Middle, and students from Jones High. Lake Man, located at 624 Bethune Drive, 210 units. Washington Shores, Orange Center, College Park, Jones High. Griffin Park, located at 520 Callahan, 198 units. We stand to lose Howard Middle School, Jones High. We've already lost Grand Avenue. Ivy Lane Elementary, Ivy Lane Apartments, located at 24 Fanfare. We stand to lose students from Ivy Lane, College Park, Carver Middle, Jones. We've already lost Evans. Reeves Terrace, which is located in, I believe, District 6, 176 units. They stand to lose Reeves Terrace Head Start, Hillcrest Elementary, Howard Middle School, Boone High School. We don't want to be remembered as just a marker with no people, just like they did Rosewood. We want fairness in these maps along with opportunity. I know you have a difficult task ahead of you when deciding these maps, but you have to also remember through gentrification, because these permits have not been revoked by the city of Orlando, we stand to lose a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Member Gallo, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is, do you prefer one particular map over the other? Were you speaking in favor of a map or just in favor of making sure that the lines were drawn equitably?
I don't particularly favor one over the other.
Okay.
Some of the maps that are the finalists are not some of the maps that I particularly chose, but I would like to make sure that when you're considering these maps that you consider what we already stand to lose already. We can't afford another 10 years by losing population to wait to see what the maps are going to look like in 10 years. In the next 5 years, these people are going to be gone, and they won't be in District 5.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Before we take the next speaker, I think one of the challenging things for the board with regard to this is that while those communities may be identified for demolition, what we don't know and what we can't predict is the demographics of the replacement housing that's likely to go in there. So I think it is a relevant point, and I appreciate, Ms. Harris, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I think it's relevant. I'm not exactly sure that there's information by which we could predict the future to know what adjustments we could make at this point in time, because again, it may not be housing, it may be something else that replaces it, but the concern about removing that housing is recognized and understood. Let's hear from Derek Edwards. I'm sorry. Oh, Ms. Felder, you want to comment? Member Felder wants to comment at this point in time. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Cynthia, Ms. Harris, for coming to the meeting and expressing your concerns. And I guess later on I'll be able to talk about my preference as it relates to the maps. But one of my major concerns, you didn't hit on it exactly, but when his name escapes me, Woody, he talked about, gave us several examples that was considered when the maps were put together. And I certainly am concerned about the voter percentage in the districts, that remains the way, where at least there's a chance as it relates to future board members that appear on this board. But I do want to, again, later on I'll probably talk, but I want to thank the gentleman, the young man from Dr. Phillips. I opened Dr. Phillips. I appreciate your effort, and yeah, we do need to prepare for you in some years to come. I think you're going to be ready. But I just wanted to say that, but I guess when we hear all of those persons that have something to say and you get a chance to talk to each board member, I can then put forth some thoughts that I have about District 5. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and school board members. My name is Derek Edwards, and I represent Evans High School and United Foundation of Central Florida's Future Leaders United After School Enrichment Mentoring Program. I am here today to express my concerns in regard to the maps that will be proposed by the 2021 OCPS Reapportionment Advisory Committee. First, I speak on behalf of our students. We strongly encourage the board to strongly consider map 16 that is being proposed this evening, as it protects the integrity of our community Pine Hills, as well as keeping Evans High School in the school board District 6. We believe in continuity. Map 16 maintains that continuity for our families. Evans High School being in District 6 has positively impacted our school and its surrounding communities. We want to continue this progress with our respective school board member seat. Our community, our school, and our programs have come to know the representatives of District 6. Our primary example of that would be the relationship that we have developed and maintained with Dr. Karen Castor-Dental. Since being on the school board, she has advocated for the schools of our district, and most importantly, Evans High School. Secondly, I speak on behalf of my fellow peers at Evans High School. We believe that moving Evans into High School District 5 as recommended in map 18 would not be beneficial to our community in the long term, potentially leading to the negative impacts on our school, community, and programming. Lastly, I speak on behalf of my fellow peers at Evans High School. We believe that map 18 and 19 would also have negative impacts on our community. These aforementioned maps split Pine Hills into 3 school board districts instead of 2 on the pre-existing maps, or just 1 district. No other community is as divided as Pine Hills in these maps. We understand that other maps were taken into consideration because of protected communities from being divided. Well, I please implore you to take that into consideration when thinking about selecting a map. I close with the original recommendation. That is to strongly consider map 16 when deciding as a board what map to move forward with. The ball is in your court, and we are looking for you to make the best decision possible for all of Orange County. Madam Chair and school board members, I thank you for letting me speak, and I thank you for your time.
Mr. Edwards, excellent presentation. All right, we're not clapping, but we all want to clap. So, all right, we can show, that was wonderful. What a great presentation. His name, Derek Edwards. Edwards, yes. And whether, regardless of what position you might be taking on this issue, you have to respect the eloquence with which he just delivered that message, as well as William. I'm telling you what, a lot to be proud of and look forward to in the future. Yes, Member Gallo. Yes. Yes. Come on up. Can you come back up to the microphone? Future.
My bad. It's the Futures Leaders United After School Enrichment and Mentoring Program at Evans High School.
Thank you so much.
This is the program under Sandra, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And
that's
I am the
program,
president of the organization.
Oh, well, thank you, President.
You're welcome.
Thank you, President.
And they attended our meetings too.
I
Awesome.
love that. We should expand that program, Karen.
Well,
They are working on it. Madam Chair?
absolutely.
I-
Member Castor-Dental.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As evidence of someone's hard work for 12 years, Derek is He was accepted to Princeton with a full ride.
Okay, now we have to clap. We just have to clap.
So, and his mother, his proud mother, is next to him. So
Yes.
I'm sure she's very
Yay,
happy,
Mom.
So
Whoa.
the group really is
All
great.
right,
Thank you.
I'm not surprised, but I'm overwhelmed. That is so awesome. Yay. Whoa. Whoa, boy. That's so cool. Okay, I've lost track of where we are. I think that was the end of our public comments. So we'll go into board discussion. Pardon me? Nope, that was our last speaker. So I'm going to take the board members in the order that I have them at this time. Member Castor-Dental, that was your comment, correct? Just now? Okay. Okay. So let's go to Member Cobert, where we initially started off. Member Cobert.
Thank you, Chair. So quick thank you and kudos to this committee. This committee was so impressive. The level of intellect and integrity, dedication, and the time that you put in. It's really, you've gone above and beyond as citizens, and we all thank you for that. And we had the utmost faith and trust in this committee, led by Mr. Rodriguez. So again, thank you all for making a difficult task look easy and do it with such grace. So, and I also, again, kudos to William and Derek. It's young people like you that give me faith in the future and know that we're going to be just fine. I'm going to kick it off by giving my support for Proposal 16, and I'll give you the reasons why. I tried to look at this from not only my district, I represent District 3, but looking at this universally for the entire OCPS organization as well. Proposal 16, if we look at the entire district, it relieves District 4. Let me say again, relieves District 4. It cleans up the West Orange zone. When we talk about unifying communities, like Pine Hills, I think that is important. It keeps the Evans attendance zone together, again, unifying communities. And it decreases the populations of our high growth districts, including 4, 2, 1, and 7. For District 3, this was important to me that it unifies the Hunters Creek community. Hunters Creek was divided between 3 and 4, and you have certain communities that just, they're not a town, but they function like a town, and Hunters Creek is one of those communities. I thought that was important. It also does not divide Conway. When we talk about keeping Hunters Creek together, keeping Pine Hills together, the other two maps do divide Conway by 3, and that's a lot. I think the natural dividing line of 436 in Proposal 16 makes sense to me, but dividing Conway into 3 does not. Proposal 16 keeps that community together. And I do think that is a clean line, Cimarron or 436, to divide districts 3 and 2. So also listening to the community, keeping communities together is a priority for me. And finally, this proposal was the map that was unanimously approved by the committee. Those are my thoughts for now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Cobert. Member Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am also very proud of all of the members of the committee. This is hard work. It's very challenging because I think that everybody have different opinions. But the conversations and the wisdom from Woody is also very, I really appreciate it. I value the conversations. Thank you for listening to all of us. I think my only concern is the division of Avalon, and that is the reason why I will be more in favor of the map number 16. And I highly appreciate Darren's speech. Thank you so much, because make me analyze even more further, not looking not only into my district, but across the whole Orange County Public School, or every district, District 1, 2, 3, 4. I never advocated for one school to keep it or leave it. And I think that all of us are just looking for the best for our communities and to keep them together. So we're gonna serve everybody anyways. We're gonna serve every school. We are very proud to serve. And I'm sorry that I'm just speaking on behalf of you, but I know that we feel very proud to serve our constituents and our schools. But I'm in favor of number 6 because I think that is the less divisive. I can say that maybe Stowe Lakes Elementary, I know that, the committee trying to do something there, but keep Avalon apart from Timber Creek, I don't think it's fair. And I also want to share an email, just 2 sentences from one of my constituents from District 2. She said, "Good morning, Ms. Member Lopez. I live in Avalon Park, Board District 2 currently. I am an OCPS parent and serve as a SAC secretary at Timber Creek High School. After reviewing the proposed reapportionment maps, I have concerns about Map 18. Map 18 creates an arbitrary division between District 1 and 2 within South Village, one of the small neighborhood villages within the Avalon Park Homeowner Association area. So this proposed dividing line separates some of the South Village townhomes from the remainder of South Village and will be very confusing for residents of South Village. This also puts Avalon Middle School into a different district than both Avalon Elementary and Timber Creek High Schools. Additionally, Map 18 does not decrease the population numbers for either District 1 or District 2 to allow for continued growth of the east side of the county." So, at the end, she said, "Please vote against Map 18. When I visited the school, elementary school, I visited all District 2 schools in my first year when I won this seat. And I remember just visited Avalon Middle School. They have the spirit of Timber Creek. They are just whoop since elementary school. Even the elementary school, the walls are purple. I don't see Avalon, in another side. So, and I would love to keep them, of course, but I think that the fair decision is to keep them together because Avalon is a community of interest that needs to be taken in consideration. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Member Lopez. Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I received that same email from that same constituent, and I've spoken to a few others that have been very vocal from the Avalon community that they wish to stay together and for there to be continuity amongst Avalon. And I do believe that Proposal 16 and 19 preserves that the best. 19 actually preserves it a little bit better than 16 does. Just because it captures a larger population of that Avalon area and puts it into Timber Creek, which adds to the continuity. So I'm just going to go say my pros and cons of what I see in my district because I want to hear from fellow board members that know their districts better than I do because I'm looking at the numbers and I do have some concerns in other districts when I'm looking at the breakdown of high schools and different numbers. It's just about representation and make sure that everybody feels represented in their community. I, like Member Lopez, do not particularly enjoy losing Winter Park. I think it's a great community. It's wonderful. I will be sad to move it in every single map. I do lose Winter Park. But I recognize that they are a community and it's a community that needs to stay together. And I know that Member Castro-Dento will represent them well, and whoever comes after her in District 6, because it is a community and it's almost like a family out there, and to be represented as such, it matters. And so I'm happy to see that they will be together, even though I'll be losing them. But I'll still be available. So 16, I do like 16. I like 16 because there's a fair representation for all of my high schools. 19, when you're looking at Avalon, I like it just a little bit better because it draws it in. What I don't like about 19 is then I lose District 1, and I'm going to say District 1 because this is for the next 10 years, and we don't know who's going to represent District 1. It's not my district, it belongs to the people. But the numbers for University High are lower, so it goes down like to 43%, and I feel like that leads less representation for University High. And so that was the issue that I had with 19. With 18, because of the issue that Member Lopez mentioned with Avalon being in District 2, I can't support 18 because that's not the desire of the community, and it doesn't make sense when we're looking for continuity. And I don't believe that there was a real good reason why Avalon was in 2. I think it might have just been an oversight of the committee or whatnot. But it does make sense for Avalon to be in District 1. So for that reason, I can't support 18. I don't know if we'll be looking as we go through down the line of school board members of maybe shifting, doing this. I don't know what their thought process are. That's why we're here this evening. But from a standpoint, I would support 16 or 19. I'm leaning more towards 16 just because of the representation of University High that's in Proposal 19. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gallo. Member Felder. Oops, I'm sorry. I'll push you right back. That was me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I looked at the maps, and I am in favor of 18 because I am looking at the voter presence for the district. Also, I don't want, I guess I really don't want community split. I understand that's not a good thing, but I'm also looking at, it's just, when I went to the meeting at Jones and I saw that I had District 5 was just as close in getting to Evans as opposed to Dr. Phillips, and I'm really happy with the 2 schools I have, but I do understand that Board Member Gould would have so many high schools, and that's the only thing that I'm concerned with her having so many. And I do understand that we need to be able to share the high school, but I'm looking at the population of voting, because students don't vote. Adults vote. And I'm looking at that in terms of making sure, because long after I leave this seat, I need to do my best, and I'm going to do my best to protect the seat. However, I do, listening to fellow board members and really understanding about that split between 1 and 2, that that may be something I need to maybe reconsider and look again at 16, but I'm definitely not looking at 19, not at all. But 18 and 16, maybe I can look, because I had not paid that much attention to what was going on between 1 and 2. I was just looking at what was going to happen to the district in terms of the voter representation. And I wanted to make sure that was equally distributed. That is why I went with Proposal 18, but of course, however the board votes, I'm going to go along with that, but I need to go on record. I support 18, and I know why I support it, because I'm looking at the voter turnout and what will occur, and I'm trying to protect this seat. Thank you.
I'm going to call in a minute on Vice Chair. Can I ask, would the board mind if I ask a question, because I wasn't completely, Member Felder, I wasn't completely clear. So and I think it's an appropriate concern that I have. I want to make sure that we maintain a district with a likelihood of African American representation. That's important to me. And it looks to me that 16 is slightly better than 18. Yeah, so I wasn't sure when you were talking about voters, what you were referring to.
That's what I'm talking about, but I'm sorry.
So 16 has 50.7% African American, 19.4% white. actually.
Okay.
And 18 is actually 20.5% white and 50.6. They're very close. But
very
of the
close, yeah.
but of the two, 16 is actually slightly preferable for maintaining an African American representation there.
Yeah, that was my concern. I didn't. I guess I really I was so caught on trying to make sure that that representation was there, because that's very important to me, and I'll take a look at it again. I really seriously just. I'm sorry, I didn't think about 1 and 2. You know what that was going to do.
Yeah.
But after hearing and then looking at it, and Karen was kind of showing me the lines over here so I could see. And I guess, 16 probably would be what I would like.
Take a look at it as we continue to have this discussion. But I
will.
kind of zoomed in on that. That was one of the first things I wanted to make sure. I had confidence in the committee, but I still wanted to make sure that any one of these options would preserve a strong likelihood. And then when I saw that 16 was preferable and I started seeing the number of board members that were supporting it, I was thinking, wow, this might be a kumbaya moment here.
Okay.
So let's
Thank
go
you.
then, and thank you, board, for the indulgence. Let's go to vice chair.
I was waiting for Pam. That's funny. Okay. First, I just want to again add my congratulations and thank you to this committee. This is not a big task, and I know one of my members was in here. I don't know if he's still in here, but I know he thanked his wife on Facebook the other day for allowing the time commitment, because it was quite a time commitment away from family, and so I certainly appreciate it. I also want to commend the committee on having foresight and recognizing future growth, because I'm very appreciative that in all 3 maps that is recognized for District 7, because as I have said numerous times from the dais, District 7 is going to be our next big boom area, I believe. So I love that we've got some room to grow there for District 7 in all 3 plans. I am also very thankful that that communities were really tried to keep communities together, and I'm very thankful for the Lockhart community being put back together. I think that's going to be so beneficial for that community that is, really having some big boost there, getting some development, trying to build that community up. So I think that's a great move. I really am. I could do either 16 or 19. I really would have liked to have kept Winter Garden and Oakland together. I think that those 2 communities are very intertwined, but it makes sense to me that that line would have to be there. My other in 16 that it was, yeah. So what I was going to say is I like in 19, I like that those 2 communities are put together. But what I don't like about 19 is the Evans community being split 3 ways. That is one of my biggest concerns, just because I think that it really does help a school to have a common identity with a board member that parents, community members they can go to with issues or concerns or suggestions, and for that, and it helps to have a board member that's really engaged. And I think with it being between 3 board members, that's just more difficult. So because of that, I think that my preference would be 16 as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair. Member Kester-Denel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to take a minute to thank Woody for coming back and spending all that time behind the scenes and in front of the committee and guiding everybody through. I don't think it was by chance that the committee operated so smoothly. I think your guidance made a big difference. And I appreciate that. It's good to see you back in chambers here.
Yeah.
Court. And to the committee members, thank you so much for your late nights. There was like a Tuesday night and then a Wednesday night, and I was going to try to make it, and I couldn't make it to only about just one. And I thought about your schedules and how you were able to clear them, and how difficult that must be when you have kids at home or other responsibilities. So thank you for your time and the seriousness that you took or that you displayed in deliberating about these maps. So I appreciate it very much. And then to the people who went and followed and came to the meetings, and you were not on the committee, thank you very much for your participation. I know that our schools, we prepare people for college and careers, but obviously we also prepare for civic involvement. And this process of redistricting and reapportionment is really boring. A lot of people don't understand the significance of it, and I especially appreciate the students for your time, because your time is valuable as well. But your participation in this is to be commended, because this is fundamental to how our government operates, and your participation in it will have an impact. So you don't have to be able to vote to make a difference. You're making a difference now, so thank you for that. And then for Julian, your involvement was already pointed out, how impressive your role was. And Julian is also a graduate of the Future Leaders United program, and he recently graduated from Morehouse. So he's a Morehouse man.
Yes.
So thank you for your continued involvement and mentorship as well. Now for my thoughts on which map, I have to lend my support for map 16. And for so many reasons, I was coming up with all my pros and cons for all the different maps. I was following along as when you had the first 7, I studied those, and then you didn't get any of those. And I'm like, oh, all that work. So I can imagine how you guys felt. But map 16 has an even distribution of population among the different districts. It's the most of those 3 maps. It's the most evenly distributed. And it also maintains a majority-minority seat for Hispanic member and African-American member. That's also important to me. And then the guides or the principles of the redistricting that you had to follow were the contiguity, how they fit together. And the compactness and the smooth lines, I think, those are important not just to making maps, but to help constituents and residents know who their representatives are. When you have so many jigsaw pieces of these maps, people don't know who the representatives are. And their neighbor may have someone totally different. So this was important that you were able to smooth those lines out. I know in District 6, there was like a big chunk taken out. Looks like someone bit it. And now you guys smoothed that out, and that makes it easier for people to say, oh yeah, I know who my representative is. I'm on the west side of 436. I'm in District 6. Easy. And that makes them have greater access to their representatives. So that's important. So thank you for that. And 16 does that. And very important, map 16 gives relief to District 4 with the 6 high schools down to 4. It is, if you were to compare map 16 with the current maps that were elected in, you'll see that it is the least disruptive. There's the least amount of changes out of the 3 maps. The population of the maps takes into account the growth rates, as mentioned before, of the different districts, allowing for more room to grow on the east and west side. In District 6, we're pretty much built out. So map 16 has one of the highest populations right now, but we expect to have the other ones even out more later. And map 16 doesn't lose Boone for District 3. They don't lose Boone. That's like, you know, it's like it's an essential part of District 3. And for Winter Park to add to District 6, I understand you don't want to lose all the relationships and what you've built up. But I know we've shared Winter Park District, Member Gallo, and we'll continue to share it. You still have a large chunk of it, so I'll still see you at the events, I'm sure. But it's also, Winter Park is where my kids went to high school, and it kind of makes sense to kind of take it on and, you know, add it to my portfolio of high schools. But map 16 also preserves Evans High School in District 6. And I see the number map 18 and 19 as a lot more radical as far as their changes and movement of high schools. So I fully support map 16 and thank the committee for your work in coming up with one that works so well across so many districts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Member Gould.
So I will tell you my favorite map is 19 if I was living in a bubble. But I'm not. And I think when we go down not only the legal checklist, but the checklist that is in the absolute best interest of our student base and the voter base, 16 is probably is the best choice. And I was playing with numbers because we have all of the background and all of that. You know, if we move this one school here, because that might not be as neat as that. But you all did absolutely incredible work. And when I look at this, it really checks the boxes. It checks the boxes not only in keeping natural communities the most together. It checks the boxes in an equitable approach to the voter bases. It checks the box of making sure that we maintain representation of a strong Black and Hispanic community. It really does a great job. It solves some real problems. We all have had some weird crossovers in our district, but Linda and I shared these outlier schools, and I always felt like we were not doing them injustice, except for the fact that we partnered so well. If we were different kinds of board members in these seats, we may not have served those communities as well. And you have to plan for that too, right? Because not everything is always harmony and kumbaya on boards. And so you have to try to plan for that too. It also really takes into account, well, we have to use the numbers at the current census. There's 40,000 more people coming just to Horizon West. Just to Horizon West. That doesn't include the rest of 545 and parts of 535 that are still getting multifamily housing. So this gives us some breathing room. We're going to see the same kind of explosion on the east side. We're going to see Lake Nona fill out. So it really, while you couldn't have that be the deciding factor, I think you did absolutely the best job you could and presented us with something. And I know there's a couple more speakers, but I have heard consistently down the row, and I thought I would try to tweak it, but when I really sit and look at it and look at the numbers, 16 is absolutely the best. So I would make a motion that we approve map 16.
All right, we have a motion by Member Gould. We have a second by Member Cobert. And we do have two more board members. I do want to remind the board we also have 4 policies still ahead of us. I was kind of feeling like we were about at the end of the meeting, and then I remembered we have a full agenda ahead of us. So let me go to Member Gallo before we call the question. Member Gallo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was remiss when I spoke earlier because Joey Cadle and Tom Beard were my representatives on the committee, and Joey was the vice chair. She's the former school board member that held District 1. So I just wanted to thank them for their time and their commitment, for all their hard work, and for saying yes when I asked them to be on the committee. And again, we appreciate the entire committee. I sat in 2 meetings, and the numbers alone were giving me a headache. I had to leave. And so I appreciate all the hard work and all the time and effort that you put into it, because it was a lot. It was a lot that you had to consider, and then you'd consider this, and then something else would come up, and you'd have to consider that. So I just wanted to offer my thank you, because I was remiss in saying it earlier. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Gallo. Member Lopez.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for not dividing Lake Nona High School area. Lake Nona is growing, and that was awesome when I saw that. So, and also for not dividing Colonial High School area either. So thank you so much for that one.
Thank you. All right, before I call the question, let me just check with Member Felder. It would be wonderful if there was unanimous support. I wanted to make sure you had a chance to look at those numbers for 16.
I did. I was just sharing with Karen how emphatic I was when I went into the meeting at Jones, and I just said some things. But after listening to the rest of you board members, and then looking at the map again, I can live with that.
Thank you.
I can live with it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, as proud as I am of the Reapportionment Advisory Committee, I'm equally proud of this board. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Can I just
Ms.
get
Nval.
clarification that this includes the approval of the resolution as well? You can do a second motion and vote
Would
if
you
you'd
do
like.
that?
But the resolution I drafted for you, it's on the agenda. It has blanks in it because I didn't know what you were going to do. But next step for us is to add the fill in the blanks for the resolution with committee proposal 16, and to create tables specifically. The ones that you had were a conglomeration of the different proposals, but to create tables specifically for committee proposal 16.
All right, we have
Second.
a motion, and a motion by member, I want to say vice chair, Gould. Now I'm confused. Seconded
Second
by
by Dental.
member Castor-Dental. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Awesome. Great work. Great work to the committee. Wow. Awesome job.
Your district looks like a gun.
Okay.
Get
It's
to
my
that soccer
birthday
game,
next
Woody.
week.
God bless.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, guys.
I was looking to how similar. Melissa, your and my district are very similar.
Yes, true.
Melissa,
I'm sorry?
our districts are very similar. Like, we have the largest geographical district, and if you look at the makeup, the demographic
But then they're compacted in, yeah.
Oh my God. Lord, I have 16. Oh my God.
I kept looking at
Yeah. No. We have
because Amy showed some really funky shapes of
2 more? I think we have 4 more.
history, and I'm like, oh, Angie's looks like
No, we have 4 more policies.
True. Yes.
No, we can get through these fast. Great job. Okay. All right, let's, all right, 3.02. Request approval of revised board policy, GCQF, suspension and dismissal of professional staff. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 4 policies. GCQF was brought to Cabinet on November 1st, notification to CTA on October 27th, published on October 31st, rule development workshop on November 16th, and now is ready for your final approval.
Thank you. We have no public comments. Is there a motion from a board member?
Second?
Okay.
Dental.
Whoa, okay. Motion was from Member Gallo? Yes. And the second was from Member Castor-Dental. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Policy GDQD, suspension and dismissal of support staff, was brought to Cabinet on November 1st. Notification to CTA on October 27th. Published on October 31st. Rule development workshop on November 16th. And brought to you for final approval tonight.
All right. Is there we have no public speakers on this either. Is there a motion? Motion by Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by
Casterdental.
Member Casterdental. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, the next policy is Policy IA, Student Progression Plan, brought to Cabinet on November 1st. Notification to CTA on October 27th. Published on October 31st. Rule development workshop on November 16th. And brought before you tonight for final approval.
Thank you. And we have no public comments. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Motion by Member Lopez. Is
Second.
there a second? Wow. Second by the loudest seconder, which was Member Gould. And partly because Member Casterdental already got two. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Yes, we're getting punchy, but that's okay. As long as we're agreeing, it's good. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Finally, we have policy IHAM, fondly called IHAM. That is our local school wellness policy, brought to Cabinet on November 1st. Notification to CTA on October 27th. Published on October 31st, and Rule Development Workshop on November 16th. It is brought to the board tonight for final approval.
Thank you. We have no public comment. Is there a motion?
So moved. Dental.
I'm going to give that one to Lopez. Is there a second? I didn't
Second.
know. Thank you.
Casterdental.
Motion, seconded by Member Casterdental. This job is getting difficult. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Member Gallo.
Second. Oh.
Second by Member Colbert. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
What did I say? Oh, but Colbert hadn't had one yet. and it was a tie. It was her turn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Jenkins.
For my report?
Well, Member, I'm sorry, Ms. Nval, do you have a report? Okay, Dr. Jenkins, for your report.
Only two items to mention. The board is so delighted over getting past that reapportionment map, so I want to be brief. Number one, I am delighted to share with you, those who have not seen it, in the Orlando Business Journal, Heroes for Community Impact. Member Pam Gould is featured on the cover, in case you hadn't seen it. These 12 Central Floridians are making a difference in healthcare, workforce training, transportation, and affordable housing. Of course, Member Gould is for healthcare. She's in the back on the picture on the cover, but I'll have you know she is the first actual article hero highlighted inside. You didn't see it? We're extremely proud. Congratulations to Member Gould. Secondly, just wanted to tell you, I love this job, but what invigorates me so much is working with some of our young people, and my Superintendent Student Advisory Council is just so sharp. They just blow me away when they talk about what is the issue they want to take up this year. As you know, in the past, we've had different things taken up, like sportsmanship and social media, safety, and doing inappropriate things against the code of conduct. This group is, and I want to thank Chief of Staff Dr. Williams and some of the PR team for working so closely with them. This team has a heart of compassion and similar intuition that the board has expressed, because their campaign this year, you'll be hearing more about it in weeks to come, but they are going to work on mental health and wellness of our students.
Oh, yes.
These are juniors and seniors in high school, and we come before them and talk about the different projects that have been done previously by my superintendent student advisory councils, and just give them some examples. And when they deliberated, and this is online because we haven't brought them together in person, they are online deliberating and discussing. I'm so proud and so pleased to tell you the issue that they want to take up similar to the board's heart, is around mental health. Because they see the same thing that the board has recognized. In fact, our Surgeon General has said it's at a national crisis level, mental health of our young people after having gone through this pandemic. And so when I saw the topic that they had come down to after the last deliberation, I couldn't wait to share with you. They have similar intuition and hearts of compassion about their fellow students, and they are going to be focusing their campaign around mental health. So pleased to announce that, Madam Chair, that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. And what is best about that is that they will be far more effective than anything all the rest of us can do combined. So pretty cool, pretty cool. Okay, any report? No, we don't have any reports from board members. Any issues that need to come up from board members before? And Dr. Castrodental, you recognize.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to bring up or follow up with some comments from that were made earlier, and lots of emails that had been sent to me, and other conversations that I've had with teachers and librarians. And I would like to recommend that we reconsider pulling the book from the library shelves that we did originally, while it continues to go through the process that we have in our policy. I just worry that it sets a precedent that we don't necessarily want to start. So I just would like to maybe reconsider that and possibly return the book to the shelf while it goes through the process we have.
Okay. I was about to turn to the superintendent, but we have Member Felder, Member Gallo, Member Byrd. Is this on the same issue?
It's not.
Okay. Member Gallo on this issue. Member Byrd. Okay. And yours is? Okay. Let's hear from Member Gould, and then we'll go to Dr. Jenkins as well.
Thank you, Member Castrodental. You know, had we not pulled it and then put it through the process, I would agree. I don't think we should give the community any whiplash, and we should let it go through the process. And then in hopes that it's the right resolution at the end. But I feel like since the action was taken because of the excerpt that was read that night, and it all kind of was shocking out of context, that we need to just follow it through and see it through the end, and then let the process take care of it, as hopefully we will do in the future.
Any Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my thoughts on this, because I've shared this with the community, so I don't think anything that I'm going to say is going to be shocking. I read the book, as I know that you did as well, and I think several members did. And in context with the book, the picture was appropriate for the storyline. The issue is that for those kids that just look in the picture and they're not taking it in the context of the book, they're just seeing a picture, and they're seeing a picture that could be inappropriate. So I understand Member Castrodental's stance on this. I think that we need to be diligent before we remove any library book from the shelf, and make sure that we've done due diligence and that it's gone through the correct process. I know that we're bringing, I think in January, I already saw that we'll be reviewing that policy so that we can kind of tighten it up and make sure that we're following it appropriately. I did have issues with that picture, and it broke my heart because I read the op-ed, I read from the author, and I really felt like the author was being victimized twice. But the picture was still a picture that, taken out of context, could be inappropriate in our high schools and on our shelves. I would recommend, and I want to be vocal because I know that, and we discussed our communication. And I'll speak just for me, I support the LGBTQ community. I had a hard time earlier listening to some of the comments from the people. Quite frankly, it hurt my heart. and it makes me sad because all students are our students and we support them all. And I want to be clear about that. And if we could, make sure that we make a intentional effort to put more books so that our LGBTQ students have more resources, because we've removed one, I totally support that. I just want the LGBT community to know that we support them. And while we may have taken this one book off the shelf because we deemed a few pictures, 2 pictures, to be inappropriate, maybe for a 9th grader, to share, we need to then replace it with more books. But I just wanted to be very clear that that community has our support, and we will stand up for them, and we will fight for them. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you very much, Member Gallo. I concur with everything you just said, and it hurt my heart to hear those comments and to have there be any confusion about how strongly this board has supported our LGBTQ plus community. And let me go to Vice Chair Byrd.
This subject?
No,
It was
yeah.
not on the subject, but I'll go ahead and comment on it. I totally 100% agree with what Member Gallo just said. I read the book as well. My adult 18-year-old daughter read the book, and we, she also felt that it was not appropriate for high school shelves. She could understand the concern. And when I had the same concerns, Member Gallo, though, that the message of the book is an important message. It's an important book for parents going through this. There are so many kids going through this and so many parents that don't know how to handle it. That book is a good book for that purpose. By the same note, though, those pictures that are in the book and in some of the text, there was actually quite a bit of the text that I think is just, it cannot be in school shelves. There just can't. But I agree totally that we need to, maybe if the policy needs to be followed, first of all, next time, everything needs to be done the right way, but also that if we take something out because of that reason, then we need to put more resources to help these kids because as
Member Casterdental.
Why the sigh, Madam Chair?
Oh, I don't know, because I'm just trying to figure out where we're going to land the plane. Is what I was
Okay.
thinking. Yeah. No. Oh no, it wasn't like I'm sighing because I'm calling on you.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I appreciate my colleagues' comments. And I agree with Member Gallo that we should be investing in even more resources for our LGBTQ youth in our libraries. There are, since I've read the book in question, I have learned of many more that are aimed at the same students or other students who would benefit from reading about other people's experiences. And I read the book, and I can tell you, as an ally, I learned a lot from that book about how compassionate I need to be and how others need to be, and the struggle that many of our students are enduring right now. And I think it's an important book, but my real problem is with the precedent that it took, that it's setting, that the board is the one that recommended that it be removed from the shelves after not a book that we decided to bring up and look at, but that someone else who went around the normal policy and created a disruption, created a reaction. And I don't want to encourage that kind of behavior again when there is a book that they don't like. And I think our reaction reinforces it. So that's why I'm asking for it to be returned to the shelves, or at least allow our students who would normally check the book out to have access, because I don't think the person who checked it out was checking it out because they thought it would be a handy resource. They were doing it for other purposes. And I think we need to look at how genuine some of these issues are that are brought to us. Thank you.
Member Casterdental, I agree with you. I don't think that it was stumbled upon. I think that there's pretty clear evidence in the social media arena that that's not how that book came. And I understand your concern about rewarding that approach. I do want to clarify, the board did not direct anybody to take that off. My words were, I hope it's off the shelves tomorrow morning. And that didn't mean I had the authority to remove it permanently or to remove it, period. It was what I hoped, and it was not completely removed, I think, but the deputy superintendent read it, and the determination was it was not appropriate material to be on the shelves. I'll turn to Dr. Jenkins in a minute. It didn't follow the process in the terms of what a citizen should do in terms of bringing it forward. It's one of the reasons that I started this afternoon's comments about the fact that if anyone has any books that they want to bring to our attention, there's a right way to do it, and this is the way to do it, and this isn't the forum. Because like you, I was cognizant of that. This is just not the way we're going to do business here in Orange County Public Schools moving forward. I think it's important that we take a look at our policy, because I do have concerns that we may end up with very, very different opinions from one school to the next in terms of what's appropriate. And I don't have a clear idea of how we're going to frame any kind of criteria or standards, but I do think that you shouldn't have a situation where one school approves a book and 19 other high schools turn it down. I just think that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think we have a lot of work to do. I respect your opinion on this. I value Member Gould's opinion on this too, the whiplash. I think they're both very valid, to be honest with you. Dr. Jenkins, your thoughts on this at this point?
I can land this plane, so
that would be good.
So appreciate all of your comments. Member Casterdental and I have spoken about this previously. Just a couple of things to bring to your attention, because I want, if anyone is actually still listening at this point, I want to clarify a couple of things. There were 4 copies of the book in 3 out of our 22 high schools, so it was not largely circulated, not largely present. Follett, who was the distributor, actually in their description mentioned the word adult level and mature content, which probably would have flagged it for some of those who make the purchases of the books. So the notion of consistency and review is something that we have to consider. You do have 2 policies that we're trying to get in the first quarter of next year. We have got to get your B policies finished. That is important. So that is up in Q first. But of the there were 4 out of the 3 books, and here is where Dr. Vasquez and I discussed and landed on an administrative decision. It was this notion of disruption of the educational setting. 4 copies, 3 schools, public spectacle, media frenzy over that public spectacle. If we thought it was going to be disruptive, not only sexually explicit in some instances, but also probably going to be disruptive to the school setting, that administrative decision was made to hold it off the shelf until we could have some discussion. Now, let's talk about the actual process. That book was not brought through the process. It was made a public spectacle here, and we put a stop to it before my high school students got into quite an excitement over that particular book. We put a stop to it, hit pause on that. Typically, the complaint goes to the school. The school has a committee. If they don't like the outcome there, we have another book that's going through this process. If they don't like the outcome there, then they come to the district committee for review. If they don't like the outcome there, then they can appeal to the school board. That is your current policy. And your current policy, as the chair just mentioned, you would have to do that in each school, because one school could actually decide that it's not appropriate and the other 21 high schools could still have it on the shelf. So we've got some work to do on our policy. Our Deputy General Counsel has certainly been researching it so that you're clear. There is statutory language. Some people present one side of the story. There is Supreme Court language on the other side of the argument as well. when it comes to the ability of the board to have some control over content in libraries. That being said, we will have a work session. I think this is one of those work sessions we want to start early enough so that you are fresh and have the stamina to go through quite a lengthy discussion as we work session this topic, and then eventually try to bring it to rule development for community input as well. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. And I just want to echo that, and I said this very clearly, but maybe not everybody was listening. The concern that I had nothing to do with the overall content. It was simply whether it was too sexually explicit. And if it had been a book about a man and a woman or two teenagers of the opposite sex, I would have had exactly the same issue. I think the Supreme Court decision, as I understand it in reviewing it, was that if we were basing it on religious opinions or personal biases or values, that would be one thing and not permissible. But if it has to do with age-appropriate, sexually explicit, pornography, vulgarity, that is a grounds for not allowing a book to be in a public high school or public school library. So I do want to be very, very clear. I hope that I have built a record in my actions of being extremely supportive of our gay and lesbian and transvestite students, and it distresses me that there would be any question about it, because I don't want our children feeling for 1 minute that every single one of them isn't welcomed and loved and safe and cherished right here in Orange County Public Schools. And that's why those comments by some members of the public, I just could not respond. So thank you all. Thank you for again, I'm always so proud of this board and our compassion and respect for our children. Member Felder.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to mention the event that I hosted on last evening and to let the district know, those of you that are still listening, how much I appreciate the parents and community coming out to Carver, how much I appreciate the support of the district. Dr. Williams was there, and Scott and Shari Babinski, and our members of the OCPS police staff. They were there in full gear and just there, and I appreciate the opportunity that this district afforded me to have that town meeting, which will be one of many, and it gave me an opportunity as a school board member to seriously hear from teachers, from community members, parents, real concerns that they had. And so I would like to invite, I don't know, this is my first year on the board, but invite other board members, challenge you to do a town hall meeting. Do that. Allow members of your constituency to come and just kind of hear out. You might not have to be as elaborate as mine, because mine was comes from an alleged incident that occurred, but to give us an opportunity to just hear from our constituency and to hear from some of the teachers and administrations from the schools that we represent. I was happy about the turnout, and I engaged members of the city commissioners were there, because it was really for them. I was just hosting the meeting, but I just wanted to mention that, and to just to say how happy I was to have that meeting and have people come out. And I know y'all have seen it on the news, but anyway, I wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, and I've sent an email to Dr. Jenkins regarding regarding this issue, but I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the board because the only time that we get to have a conversation is at the dais. We can't have it any other time. And I think we have an issue with our media specialists, and I think it's being highlighted. Not for the work they do a great job, but so much of their time is spent on the computers and taking care of the computers and the fines and the way that we do the fines. I think that we have some serious issues that need to be looking into. I've spoken to several media specialists who tell me they spend anywhere from 50 to 80% of their time taking in computers. And there's no centralized location, and as computers age out, they have more problems, and the processes that are put into place kind of follow the child and not really the device. It's complicated, and I think it needs to be reviewed. I've even asked the superintendent to do an audit into the processes. And I'm sure y'all you're getting emails on the fines on computers. You're hearing, I'm not the only one getting those emails, but I think that we need to be cognizant of that issue, and we do need to do a deeper dive into the issues that's affecting our schools. We need to look at the amount of time and the burden that we're placing on our media specialists with all of these tech issues that that take place. And we need to, they're there to make sure that they're evaluated on how they teach and the content of their library, and it's a great resource for students, and we need to make sure that we preserve that resource, especially now more than ever, and that the majority of their time is not spent taking care of the computers, especially with the fines, because there's if you have a device, a child, we can waive fines for certain things, but because we put in a ticket, it stays with the kid. So the next time they turn, even if that fine was waived, if a student turns in a device, then they're fined at a higher rate because it's considered the second time, even though the first time it was waived. So I think we just have some issues, and I just want to make sure that we're aware of it, and the need to kind of look into those issues moving forward, and maybe look at the processes we have in place and make sure that that they're consistent across the district. That's the other thing I'm hearing, is that it's not really consistent, and then that the money comes out of the principal's budget. So at the end of the year, if there's fines, the money has to come out of the principal's budget. And this is just what I'm hearing. So I'm not putting it out there as fact. I'm just putting it out there as this is what I'm hearing, and the need for us to review those processes to find out what's going on. Because if the money's coming out of the principal's budget, and then later on the student pays for that fine, is the principal reimbursed for what came out of their budget? What happens to those dollars? So I just wanted to bring it to the board attention, the need for us to possibly workshop it, review it, whatever we need to do to see if we can streamline the process for our media specialists, because everybody's working hard out there, and they're struggling right now as well.
Excuse me, Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I indicated to Member Gallo, we would rather have more accurate information and actually fact check some of that. We'll get a report to the board in your next board update, and then see where we need to go from there.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, I had heard of a couple of things, but nothing anywhere near as comprehensive as that. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I have a policy that I think we need to bring up for revision, and that is our magnet policy, JFBD, specifically 4B, where it states that to be eligible to apply for a magnet, the parent has to live in Orange County, which on the surface makes a lot of sense, except for two groups, and that is our OCPS staff transfers and our McKinney-Vento students who may possibly be attending one of our schools that is their home-based school, but maybe temporarily living out of county. I think there needs to be a clause in that policy that allows students to, if they are already established OCPS students, meaning they have been in our district, if they want to apply to a magnet, we should allow them that opportunity regardless of if, let's say, their parent's a teacher and they happen to live outside of the district. So I'd like to bring that up for revision. And then finally, I just want to wish my Apopka Blue Darters good luck Saturday for their state championship football game at 1 o'clock on Saturday in Fort Lauderdale. I just want to share with everyone, they've made the playoffs every year since 2000. This is their 6th This is their 6th title game, and they have 4 state titles. So let's make it 5 on Saturday, and it's in Fort Lauderdale, so I know everyone can't go, but you can certainly, it will be on Spectrum Sports, so tune in and watch it.
All right. And Member Gould, close us out.
So I want to close us out with birthday wishes for Member Felder, my fellow December baby. So her birthday is next week, and I wish her much joy and happy holidays to everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, with that, this meeting is now adjourned.
Yay. See you.
This may be the last time we see each other. Merry Christmas.
Yes.
We don't have any more meetings.
No?